lot for joining. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Muskan, and thank you everyone for joining in. It's a pleasure talking to each and every one of you. I have been in the region for the last 5 years, and I've spent close to 4 years working with the Kareem, which is now hopefully a big name in the region. And I have worked on the data side of things for a while now, and really enjoyed doing that. As part of the learning from all of those different businesses, I think what I've learned, key thing is that how do you build the right analytics teams, given that this is so much of an important thing to do right. I'll just dive right in. If you have any questions, you can ask in between or at the end of the presentation. Yeah, so let me just dive right in. So just giving an example here and just building the context. So all of these big companies, the Noons, the TikToks, the Googles, and the Facebooks, what's the common theme in all of these companies? These companies have enormous amounts of data, and I started working in my career with pretty standard financial services companies, and then over the last years I joined these tech startups. And what I'm amazed to see the amount of data that is available in these companies, and it completely changes the ball game of what you can actually do, right? There is so much of user information available, there is so much of transactional information available, which you can use for the benefit of your business, right? And it's amazing to see how all of these businesses run right now. They're being run by the power of data. So if we go into what are the different actions, right, that these data points are helping us provide, right? So I have worked into these businesses right from looking at the product side of discussions to the advertising side, the media buying side, the acquisition side, and each and every decision that we are trying to make, each and every a deal that we are trying to close, the key element in there is what's the data point saying? Do we understand that data point, and can we predict that correctly, right? So be it examples from how do you even price a particular media buy, right? Or can we scale up our particular acquisition costs? What do the acquisition costs look like right now? Are they really accurate? Can we scale it up to a 2x or a 3x, right? Or if there are questions on there are particular operations running, and is there a way that I can automate some of these, right? So all of these questions, when you run across different business units, all of these require data to be answered. And it is such an interesting field to be in these days, especially in these companies, that you would really feel to be at the center of the universe, right? If you don't have the right data, you literally cannot run any decision making from any department from A to Z, right? So going ahead, just a bit about myself, right? So I started into analytics by working in a life insurance company in India, and then from on there, I've spent around 4 years with Kareem and with another food delivery business. And recently I'm with media.net. So I've witnessed a lot of challenges that we have faced building the right data teams, and I've learned a lot from them. Wherever the data teams were not right, we knew what the challenges we were facing, and I could see that where we have gone wrong. And I hopefully want to give some of those ideas to the audience here, and it could probably help some of you. So before we get into that, right, some of the challenges that we do face if we don't build the right data teams, right, are the following, right? And this is a huge problem, I'm sure a lot of us would have faced across in our analytics career, right? The problem is data is not consistent. There are different reports which are showing a particular set of data, and there are another set of data points which are saying something else. And when this happens, the business teams, they are not able to trust the data that is available, and they are really not able to understand how do they make any decisions out of it, right? So data consistency is very, very important. And if we don't build the right infrastructures, if we don't build the proper analytics teams in this case, we'll not be able to have data consistency. And that's really the biggest blocker for you to be literally going in any direction of a data driven business. Second thing, which obviously happens as an impact of this, is that the entire decision making in your company is literally fractured. Every team has a different viewpoint because they're looking on a data in a very different way. They're looking on different sets of data. There is no consistent data across the different organizations or departments. And this is where you will see that you don't see all the departments kind of sailing in one direction like one ship, right? They're all making different decisions, and this is what kind of paralyzes the structure in the company. The third thing which happens is, because you're obviously lost into so much of the problems at one and two, you're not able to get into the depths of data, right? So data, if you go into the deepest levels of it, right, and you go above the what are the top KPIs saying, what are the top matrices looking like, if you go into the details of it, you'll be able to figure out, oh, if I were to kind of model this data this way, I'll be able to predict what my demand would look like tomorrow, or what my demand would look like in the day after, right? So you wouldn't be able to have the bandwidth to go into those details because you're always crippled by issues number 1 and 2. So those are the three very broad challenges that I have seen a lot of analytics teams facing, a lot of businesses facing. And the key thing is that if it is a journey while we are building a great analytics team, and especially in companies which are digital in nature, where there's so much of data available that you really need to think of how do you organize it in the best possible way. So going ahead, just a bit of an intro, right? So when you are building a great analytics team at the start, when you are starting up the business, you just want the data to be there. You just want to be able to see the data and think about what I can do about it, right? And then later on, you want the data to be consistent. As you move ahead in the business, you want your data to be powering your business strategy, right? So your business strategy is driven by, okay, what does this data point say then, and that's why I should do this. And the last of it, you want to derive more out of your data. So that's kind of like a journey, how it looks like. uh, I have worked across both small businesses as well as large consumer businesses, and I think that's the way I would want to divide it, and go into specific use cases there. So if I go into but before we go into that, I think one thing that I have also kind of realized while building these analytics teams is that while we are doing a lot of decision making in the meetings, we need to make sure that it's the data that is winning the seat, and we're doing a lot of experimentation, and using that we are trying to decide what is the winning idea versus based on who has the bigger voice in the room, right? So we need to do a lot of A/B testing, and that's pretty much a very, very consistent factor in a lot of these analytics teams and the cultures that we build in. Going ahead, so I classified the businesses into 3 broad categories here. And I have, these numbers could be very different for different industries and markets, countries. But what I've taken here is, for example, any small business which is having, let's say, less than $10 million of monthly run rate, right? in these type of teams, what you really want to do, or what the founders really want to do, is they want a consistent reporting so that you can quickly take actions. You are really small, you want to move very fast, right? And this is a scenario where you would probably have a decentralized analytics team, right? You might not even have like analytics team, right? You might have just few data analysts, 3 4 5 6, depending upon the size, who are sitting across the different units of your business, and who are able to quickly like look into data, right? And they're able to move very fast, and that's the kind of setup that you need when you are a really small business, right? You don't need like a proper data pipeline and a very exhaustive data setup, but at that point you need people who can just quickly understand the business, quickly run some queries, pull out the data, and it's like, okay, let's do this, and then let's do tomorrow this, let's do this, right? So that's the kind of setup when you need when you are a really small business, right? The key here is you want to be moving very fast. Going to a second type of a business, right? Which is, let's say you're a medium business and you're probably doing up to 100 millions in a monthly run rate, right? Now, this is the stage where you need to start building a proper data infrastructure, because if you don't do that, you will not be able to prepare for a 10x growth, or in revenue or in profitability. This is the point where you need to start thinking about your data infrastructure. You need to hire data engineers. You need to build the right data pipelines. You need to understand what are the different flows of data. How would people start consuming data? You at this stage of time, you would probably have a few business analysts working, and they would need consistent and quality access to data, right? So this is the stage where you do need to think about a data infrastructure. You also need to think about the infrastructure from a commercial analytics perspective, right? Like, what is the tool that you're going to use at front end? Be it Tableau, be it Looker, be it Data Studio. But these are the decisions that you need to make at this point, because if that is not available at this point, the people who are running the business, they'll not have access to quality data, right? And uh, it'll slow down the process. So as you see in the previous one, right, we had a decentralized analytics team. Now, in my experience, as you move towards 100 million monthly revenue run rate, uh, what I have seen works out very well is that if you move to a central analytics team, that works out in a much better fashion. And there are two reasons to that. There's a lot of infrastructure, as you saw above, that needs to be fixed, and it's only this central analytics team, in obviously in co-ownership with the engineering team, who will be able to take responsibility of that and really deliver that, because no other part of the business will have an incentive to do that. The other part also for that is that while as the business grows, right, there are different incentives to different units of the business, right? So a growth team has a different incentive to the kind of insights they draw, to the kind of analytics they do, versus a marketing team versus an operations team, right? And in that position, when you are considerably big, you need a central analytics team who can have a very non-biased view to what does the data look like and what insights it is probably generating, right? So you need a very non-biased view where you can look into the data without kind of having any specific business accountability, right? So this is for a medium business. I have been into similar medium businesses, and I've seen while you're trying to do this, there are some challenges obviously that you face in terms of, like, while you transition from a decentralized model to a centralized model, and that's part of the journey that goes into it. Coming to the next phase, where you are a large business which is probably running with more than 100 million in monthly run rate. Now, there are three things that are here, right? One, as part of the transition from phase one to phase two to phase three, you probably have a strong central analytics team right now who owns the data infrastructure with the engineering teams. And they are also ensuring that the data is right across the board, right? This is a very important accountability for analytics teams in big organizations or big businesses, specifically tech businesses which have a lot of data. because this is like the backbone of doing anything right in terms of using your data in these businesses, right? The second thing is, while you are a big business, imagine that you are running like 100 million plus monthly revenue run rate, and you have operations running across, let's say, 100 cities, right? So you'll have so many people around who are looking at the data, right? So you need to have a very smooth engine of how do you identify patterns and trends in data, how do you derive insights to business, how do these insights get actioned upon, right? How do you connect the dots together, like what does the operations data show versus what is the marketing and growth data show, how do you combine it together? At this stage with this team, you're also doing a lot of A/B testing, and you're optimizing across the board. You might have seen that I have not mentioned a lot of A/B testing in part 1 and 2 of the business, because at that moment you are still small, right? And you wouldn't have enough data also to be able to run a lot of A/B tests. But this is the stage when you are decently big in size, you have a lot of data available, and based on that you can just derive insights based on your own data. So that's the second pillar. And the third pillar is obviously getting into the artificial intelligence and running machine learning programs. What is key here is that you don't start specifically with AI and ML, except when your product specifically is a data product which is using AI and ML. But you need to make sure that you have your part 1, your data infrastructure, correct. You are generating the basic insights out of the data and actioning on them. And that is when you start looking into, okay, what more can I do out of this data? What are the different predictions and models and valuations that I can build out of it, right? And add value to the business. So these are the 3 units of what a analytics team in a large business would be doing. Quickly going ahead. So this is a very simple case study. My bad. It does not include a lot of details, but I'll give you an example, and this is something like a real scenario that I have been through. So this is a case study where, let's say, there's a business A which is running with a $30 million in revenue run rate monthly. And to the left of the slide, you can see the challenges that the business is facing, right? So first is, in terms of requirements, the operations are running across 100 plus cities, and most of the people, they need access to quality data they need access to quality data for running their day-to-day operations. But the challenge that they are facing is that they have a lot of dashboards available. They have a lot of people in their analytics team. They are using Tableau, they're using Data Studio, they have 3 4 tools that they are available. They have like probably more dashboards than the number of people that they are in the company. But still, what's happening is that the management is lacking a good visibility on key data KPIs. Plus, the on-ground teams, they're often searching for the right data point, right? Because there's so many dashboards, they're sometimes getting lost into what's the right data point for this particular action that I'm doing, right? Uh, so this is kind of a scenario, and it is a journey. It happens pretty much with every company as they go through their growth journey. The solution that I think in this scenario, where the central analytics team comes in, and the first step is that they do basic root cause analysis. They figure out what all are the different data points which are correct, what is wrong, a full audit of everything, clean up everything, and provide a very consistent outlook on the data, in terms of what are the different dashboards, what are the different ways in which we access the data, what are the right ones, we delete the wrong ones. There's a basic audit that needs to happen, which is central analytics team is the right person to do in that case. The other second thing that the team needs to do is they need to build a decision making matrix where they need to understand who are the key stakeholders who are making the decisions, what are the data points they need to look at, and we build reports, or even any of those reporting capabilities from an audience perspective. So when the CXOs are looking at report, they're looking at something very different compared to when, let's say, a person who's running operations on ground is looking at the data, right? So we need to look at this decision making matrix, understand the right data that is needed for right people, and get them access to that. The third thing that needs to happen in such a scenario is there's something called a KPI overload, because as the business grows, you are always looking into more and more KPIs, right? And there could be a point, if you've not done a lot of normalization here, there could be a point where there are like 40 to 50 different key performance indicators that you're looking at, and people could be running across different key performance indicators, right? So there is a process of alignment and standardization that is needed here with different stakeholders, right? Where we understand what are the top level KPIs that we all need to run after, right? What are the numbers that we need to run after that, right? And then while you solve for these top level KPIs, what are the second level KPIs that will make an impact on these ones? So let's say you are solving for improving the acquisition, or let's say you're solving for improving the conversion rate, right? For acquisition in your campaigns. So this is your first level metric. What is it that is impacting it? What does your funnel look like, right? So it is important to define a level 1 of the KPIs, a level 2, and probably even a level 3. And you could have different accountabilities for each of them, right? So level 1 are the KPIs, which is a certain set of people are looking at. And then there's a certain set of people who are looking at level 2 KPIs, and they know what are the different levers to pull in case any of them is up or down, right? And similarly for level 3. So these are the 3 important things that I did at that point of time to fix the problem. And it is not like once we fix it, it is going to be fixed forever. While this is fixed for one time, it will run in smoothly for the next 6 to 7 months. And then you would probably have to come over and review the situation again and see if it needs any fixes. So this is one of the case studies. That's pretty much it from my side. Thank you very much. I'm happy to help. Please reach out on LinkedIn if you do need any thing that I can be of help of. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for the presentation, Muskan. If you could be so kind to stop sharing the screen. Okay, perfect. Now we can see each other. Just a second. I'm waiting for the questions. If participants can be so kind to feel free to share their questions and challenges on the chat area, or we can give them even microphone to raise the questions if somebody has it. Okay, so it's the last time I'm repeating for the questions. If you have it, otherwise we will jump to the next stage. Okay, so it seems there is no question. Thank you so much, Muskan, for the presentation. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. In case there is a question on LinkedIn, you can reach out to her, or tomorrow we have the networking breakout coffee time again. So there you can as well reach out. Now, just to share with you the program, what's happening. According to the program, let me share the agenda again. So after Muskan's presentation, we were supposed to have a presentation from Abdul Malik from STC, but till 2 days ago, still we were in negotiation to have the presentation. Unfortunately, due to some compliance, there was no possibility of sharing the presentation. So we had to remove this short 15 minutes presentation, but instead we have questions for you prepared, which I would like to ask dear participants to get engaged. I don't want to have a boring online summit where only I'm speaking or only a speaker or a panelist and the participants are not engaged. The purpose here is to get connected together, to share ideas. There is a question here I'm writing in the chat area. So I would like you all to get engaged 15 minutes and share with me your ideas. I can give you the microphone and camera for raising your own questions during these 15 minutes. Just give me 1 second to unmute option and start video option. So you see the question. Anybody wishes to share some thoughts, ideas about it? We are very happy to hear that. A communication gap between management, business and AI, data scientists in terms of expectation and delivery. Igor, today I didn't hear anything from you. Igor Rutin, if you are with us from LibHer. Igor, can you hear me? Let me see if I can engage Shaun. Shaun, you have some opinion about this topic? Okay, Abdul Malik is here. Some opinion about that. Welcome on board.
Thanks for your understanding. Actually, we can't share the presentation, as you know that we have restricted compliance regarding sharing global summits. So answering your question, the gap between the management and business, also AI data science in terms of expectation and delivery. The solution to that is to have a data-driven framework and also to have an operating model that's agile operating model by having idea, design, develop, and also delivery. That's when you can link the management and business side and also the data scientists in one plate and the data-driven framework by linking all of that in one plate. So by this, you can fill this gap and you have a good communication with your clients.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. Happy to see you again here. Now, Shaun said that this is all what he's going to talk about tomorrow, actually. So it means that he's not going to share anything with us now. Shaun, at this topic.
I can do a little bit of promo always.
Yes, please,
early.
just 4 minutes.
Yeah, so having been a data scientist and a manager of data scientists, and now working with lots of customers trying to solve this problem, I guess the take-home message of my talk tomorrow is maybe it's us as data people who need to change a little bit. So if that's enticing, that maybe it's not just about the business and the communication gap or about more data or more conversations. Yeah, what I'll talk about tomorrow is some ways that data scientists, AI people, data people in general can change the way we approach the business a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us this information as well about tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Let's see if we can push Pratik from Visa Group. Pratik Tendon, if you have some ideas about it, or Sezgin from Turkey. So Pratik, if you have any opinion about this, or we erase other questions, Khan, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the session was really informative and I gained a lot of important insights from this session. The only thing that I would like to raise is when we talk about digital, there are so many digital campaigns that we usually see, and we try to evaluate some of them without looking at what impact does other campaigns also have on the impact that on the campaign that we are running. So if somebody has any experience with that, I think that would be great to have a discussion on.
Shaun, again, you are on the main screen. You have some feedback on this question, on this topic?
I think if I go back to my
Or Ahmad is there as well.
Economics training, you know, yeah. There's one thing that's a very interesting topic is if every part of the business is trying to move the needle on something about the customer, you could get into a very funny situation where different parts of the business are funding different models or levers on the customer that are actually conflicting with each other. Someone might be trying to get the customer to buy larger products. Someone else might be trying to get them to buy larger total baskets. Someone might be trying to get them to buy, to take up discount offers. And at one level, they all sound like they agree, but yeah, everyone individually managing managing and measuring their impact can miss that bigger picture. Absolutely. You have to know who your customers are, which is a very old question, and what their value is. Again, very old questions, complicated to do in an omni-channel world.
Absolutely. There is another challenge which during lunchtime participants put it there. Still, I would like to have some feedback if everybody has an idea, experience with it. How in real time AI and clinical data into analysis help meaningful ongoing healthcare performance improvement? You can see it on the chat area, the question. So Akshay, any thoughts on this? Jose, if you have any experience or any information to share with us on this, how in real time AI and clinical data into analysis help meaningful ongoing healthcare performance improvement? I have two Ahmed there as well. If Ashish,
hi.
Yes, Ahmed.
Thank you for giving me the chance to talk about this. And just one thing that I wanted to mention about the gap, okay? Because somehow people do not understand what are the outcomes of the AI. They cannot understand what does this mean to our business. And this is a kind of a gap that usually the management are facing when it comes to communicating with AI or scientists, data scientists. So there is a concept called explainable AI. And this is something really interesting when it comes to taking the right decisions in a meaningful way. And this is what the AI and data scientist team can offer, and for such situations. And this can definitely reduce the gap between the management and the data scientists from that side.
Thank you so much for your,
Yeah, sure.
So I just wanted to know if I see some Avi as well there, Avi from Screen, if he has any opinion on that. Hazin from Emirates, if you have any ideas on that. Otherwise, there is another question. Also, how does one put into perspective the point on ethical AI practices into healthcare analytics? This can be very sensitive too. Sunduta, you can switch on the camera and mic if you wish.
Yeah, so I believe the practice of including the practice of data into healthcare not only kind of also brings a level of stringency into how you deal with healthcare, but also one needs to be very mindful of how you utilize data and what do you do with it. And that is where my question rises about the ethical AI practices and what is with healthcare data in an ethical manner. If someone has any insights on this.
Yeah, okay, from Scream, if you have any opinion on that.
Actually, I had an opinion about the AI issue in the analytics. The models of the AI today, they would like to collect and to build the models on as much data as you can. That's how the predictive is being done, and the world is going into the prediction. So as much as you go back and on larger data sets, this is going to be, let's say, the models that you're going to provide are going to be more accurate and more predictive to the future. So in our mind, as much as you be able to collect and work on more data and more historical data and more dimensions in the for the models that you build on the AI and the ML, that's more how accurate you'll be. And the question from Visa was just, can I hear it again?
I don't see the question.
No, the last question from the lady, which I couldn't.
So the questions are in the chat area. If you look at it, yes, Sumduta was speaking and writing. So how does one put into perspective the point on ethical AI practices into healthcare analytics? This can be very sensitive too. So in the chat area, you can see the last question.
Yes, I see the question. Well, at least from my perspective, I would say that first of all, you have to provide as much as security that you can think about the data encryption, and people that are going to deal, if you're talking or you're referring to this type of question about what type of people can access this data, who can access this data, what are the silos in the organization, as people before me that talked, as much as you spread the data around, probably there is going to be more chance or more risk of breach. So as less data is going around, and if this is what you meant in the question, so in my perspective is encryption, less spreading of data around, and these are the means that I think would help.
Yes, exactly. So she mentioned, yes, confirming. Thank you so much, Avi, for joining again, sharing your thoughts. We have still 5 minutes, and I would like to have some other opinions. I was calling Jose Matias from AstraZeneca if he has some thoughts from this industry. Jose, if you can hear me, and if you are by chance on the with us. To engage more of the colleagues. Kate, are you with us? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Hi, Mazin, I'm here, yes.
Yeah,
so could you probably repeat the question or guide me a little bit here?
Yes, the question was from the Visa Group, Middle East. Also, how does one put into perspective the point of ethical AI practices into healthcare analytics? This can be very sensitive too. Or what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think if we are talking just in general, about healthcare and the ethical question, it's a big question of governance and policy, right? And that has to be defined on the not just company level, but maybe on the country level and regulations. What can and we cannot do with this data, and we see there are a lot of movements like this going on with the data privacy, like in Europe, like GDPR and things like that, right? So because AI is a tool, and let's say it has a great value, but as always, it's a tool in the hand of people, right? So the question is, I think we should start from what kind of problem we are trying to solve with the help of AI practices, and analyze this problem through the lens of ethics. And with that, that will help us to kind of put the framework of related to healthcare analytics, where we want the AI practices to be applied and what value they can bring to overall analytics process.
Thank you very much. Just the last question in 3 minutes. If you can just reply, Igor from Libher. Avi, I think you were speaking, or Shaun as well. How will you then refer to small data in this time, Avi? Avi, if you are with us still. Okay. Shaun, do you see this question from Igor from Libher? How will you then refer to small data in the real time?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't fully understand the question. I guess what would be really great is that everyone who wants to use data doesn't have to really worry anymore about, is it small, is it big, so that they can focus on what Kate was saying, what problem, what does good look like, and let the technology take care of whether it's big or small. That's my general answer, I suppose.
Let me call Igor back on board. Yeah. Igor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So to have a possibility to ask this question and to discuss that point, I fully agree with you. It would be the best case if you don't need to have a difference between big and small data, and to try to ignore this trend changes time nowadays. But it's a reality that we have now a little bit different trends, or much more different trends as before. We have a even new definition, small data from Gartner, I believe, and we need to tackle this problem. We need to find a solution. And this my question was, about your opinion on it, or maybe some idea how to tackle that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think Shaun replied the question, so then we don't have to go into extra explanation. Shaun, correct? Shaun, correct?
Definitely a non-answer. Sorry about that. But yes, sometimes a very small data set can be extraordinarily valuable. Could never disagree with that.
Okay, so thank you so much, guys.